from the absolute number, which is 10 trillion now, to what we may call pegging it on GDP. And they are saying 55% of GDP. That is a proposal. But they already know presently that already our debt stock is at 60% of GDP. And they know it will not make sense because you are putting it at 55, it's already at 60. So they have come up with an amendment, and that this is Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023. This is the amendment, and I want to read it. They say Section 50 of the Principal Act is amended by deleting the words "a limit" and substituting therefore the word "set threshold." So they are replacing limit with threshold. That I would leave to lawyers like His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka to interpret the difference between limit and threshold. To me, probably it is the same. But then, the worst bit is by inciting the following proviso at the end of the sentence. That, and listen to that, provided that if at any time the Cabinet Secretary is unable to maintain the public debt threshold as required under this subsection, or the regulation made thereunder, the Cabinet Secretary shall submit a written report to Parliament explaining the cause of the breach on the threshold and provide a time bound for a remedial plan. How do you explain breach of law? How do you explain breach of law? And it is saying that the Cabinet Secretary will only submit a report. He is not even seeking approval of the National Assembly. I don't know whether there is any democracy in the world where debt ceiling is set by executive alone. So these guys are running away from accountability. They want to I think they just want to destroy the economy of this country. Otherwise, they will not bring such amendment to the floor of the House. Otherwise, Chairman, thank you so much.
Well done. Two other big items. DG Karo Karugu on the housing levy, the tax tribunal, and my colleague and I will speak about the general impacts. Two things to keep in mind about this cheeky amendment to the PFM. Look, there are some things that are presented that are a mirage. One of them is this idea that, debt to GDP and taxation to GDP. We know that some of our external friends say that we should move tax to GDP from 17% to 22%. It's a mirage because you are not taking into account the composition of the GDP. So it's an okay idea to give you a general reference, but you cannot be dogmatic about it. If GDP is in large measure from public expenditure, then you cannot insist on that ratio going up to 22%. And we should encourage everybody to reflect a bit more and not just to parrot what is being said by external forces. The same point about this debt being a percentage of GDP as opposed to an absolute ceiling. The difficulty with it is that because the GDP is growing in large measure because of public expenditure, you are presuming like you can either tax that public expenditure and you cannot. So and when you analyze it, we hope that you for the state explain to Kenyans the meanings of these things so that our colleagues stop taking Kenyans for a ride. Honorable Karo Karugu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I will head on to an issue that has been canvassed. Just last night, out of 4 hours, I think we spoke about the housing levy for a good 2 hours, 13 minutes, and I was counting. It has been reported, misreported, and I think we are not addressing what is the key issue. And I do not think Ruto also knows what the key problem is with this. What we think is happening around the housing levy is that Ruto has friends somewhere. He has assured them you will be investors and you'll have tenders, and you will come and provide us with sockets and wires. And so the deal is done, and now they're doing the backward cleaning. Because essentially, if you ask yourself with the housing levy, what problem are we curing? Are we curing the problem of unemployment? Are we curing the problem of housing? Or is it a problem of income, like most of us, those of us with the finance and economics field believe? What is the point of building somebody a house and that person cannot feed themselves? Even if, and we argue, even if these people are built for houses, they will live in the streets with sufurias in their heads like us in Jubilee and bakulis in their hands because they will not have food. So where are your priorities? That is what we want to ask Mr. Ruto. And we want to say, matters housing levy, I think I want to conclude it in this way. Kenyans have a serious trust deficit with the Kenya Kwanza government, with Ruto and Gachagua. They are saying, give us your money, we hold it for you for 7 years, we construct houses somewhere, we give to the poor, and then in 7 years, we'll give you back your money. And what Kenyans are asking is, can we trust you even with 100 shillings? So the question around 1%, 3%, I think those are exterior issues. The issue here is Kenyans are saying unequivocally that they cannot trust Ruto and his government with their savings for 7 years, whether or not the houses will be constructed. If we move on to the issue of clinker, Clause 72 is proposing a 10% levy on clinker. Now, those who know anything about the cement industry, clinker composes 60 to 70% of cement today. Most of it is imported. Why? Because it's only 2 or 3 of our cement factories who have grinders to grind a stone that is called pulhamite that then creates clinker. Now, the question here is how Ruto is proposing to cure the issue of cost of contraction is upside down. Because if you raise importation taxes on cement and on clinker, then what he is trying to tell us is that he's trying to give impetus to the local producers of cement so that they can produce cheaper cement. But the truth is, this is a very expensive country to produce anything, whether you're producing a suit, that suit called patco, or a bag of cement. Our cost of production, which is majorly anchored on our cost of energy, is unbelievable. We are the most uncompetitive country in East African region. If you are a manufacturer today, you better go off going to settle up in Rwanda and Tanzania than coming to Kenya. And the issue of energy is easy, and we want to say this to Ruto, and we can give him ideas if our captain allowed us, but we are not here to consult for government. We are not paid by Ruto to consult for him. But this, if you read our manifesto, we had brought up the issue of grid losses in this country. This country is losing 23% of its power on grid losses. Now, let me put that in perspective. 23%, so it's about 0.25% of the power that is produced in Kenya today is lost between production, reticulation, and the end-use customer. In the Azimio manifesto, we had proposed to bring the grid losses down from 23% to 10%. Let me put that further into perspective. Every 1% drop on grid losses is 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. Every 1% drop on grid losses is 1.2 billion shillings saved that can be transferred to the end user. So it doesn't matter how much you raise the cost of you raise the cost of imports. What the government should be doing is ensure that producing locally is competitive, that bag of cement can be produced locally at a cheaper price to match the global and the East African market prices. But this obnoxious government is doing the exact opposite. The same is happening to iron rods and steel bars and craft. Let me spend some time on craft. Craft is the paper that wraps unga. I want to be like my colleague Honorable Bandi. I do not know what Ruto has with unga. Unga has been hit from left, right and center. Whether it's VAT, whether it's the actual production of the maize plant in terms of fertilizer and inputs, whether it's the milling, that milling is being hit by, you know, the high cost of fuel, whether it's the transportation between the miller and the shop. The transportation costs, I think Baba has said that very clearly. The trucks that are transporting are now going to be paying 60,000 shillings as opposed to 20,000 shillings per ton, which was what was going on. Now, unga, the paper that wraps unga usually is imported. This there's a proposal to impose a 10% duty on the wrapping paper. So who will bear this cost? It is you and I who are the consumers of unga. Once again, we want to ask, what problem do you have with unga, Mr. Ruto? Let's go to leather. The industry of leather in this country has shrunk over time, and this is because a lot of rawhide is smuggled out of this country. In fact, the experts are telling us we are losing 70% of our rawhide to China through some smuggling process out of this country. So what Ruto is proposing in clause 67, in clause 62, is that he will impose an export levy, on rawhide. So what will this then do is that it will increase, the impetus of people exporting, rawhide. So what does it then do to our tanneries? We have 9 tanneries. They are working, I'm told, at about 30%. We will be closing these tanneries, and everybody who works there will be asked to go home. Therefore, job losses. Clause 67 is proposing to increase the import declaration fee. I mean, that has been canvassed. I think it was also in Baba's speech, from 1.5 to 2.5%. My argument about importation is create a more efficient, effective internal structure so that goods are produced cheaply, and you expand your tax base so that you do not have to worry about what is coming in because you're already competitive enough. Let me move to the second last item, which is a tax appeal tribunal. Now, something very interesting here is happening. That today you have a tax issue, you have a tax case, you will pay KRA 20% of the disputed amount. So today I am disputing 100 million shillings. I will pay KRA, before we start anything, before I file my case with High Court, I will pay KRA some 20 million shillings. Now, this 20 million will not be earning interest. It will be put in an account we call escrow. So an escrow account, that money will be sitting there waiting for you to decide whether you won or you lost the case. You all know how long it takes in this country to, and the lawyers, I can see Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is here, Honorable Mother. Cases take an immense